money because of violent crime on the CTA.
A man is dead after Chicago police say he was stabbed at the Clark and Lake CTA station. That's right downtown by the what we used to call the Thompson Center. According to police, when officers arrived, they found a 37-year-old man unresponsive. He had a puncture wound to his stomach and abdomen. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. So far, no word on what led to the stabbing. As of now, nobody in custody.
And this is going to the fact that we ended 2025 with overall crime down in the city.
Significantly.
Significant with the numbers showing that crime was down in the city. However, the perception of how people are feeling about public safety, especially with these incidents on the CTA, specifically the woman getting lit on fire. There was weeks later, on the same day that they upped security, when you had more Chicago police officers on patrol in the CTA. You also had the private canines patrolling the CTA. A man reportedly lit himself and his belongings on fire.
It's been a stubborn problem for the CTA, crime. And one of the frustrating things I can tell you as a CTA user, and I know you use the commute on public transportation as well, is that when you do see police officers and security guards, you don't see just like one per car. They seem to all be clustered in one spot, all on one platform or all in one train. Just as a user of the CTA, I'd like to see them spread out a little bit more throughout the system and a little more visible that way.
And it's funny you say that, Dane, because I end up talking to a lot of those police officers and security guys when they're at the CTA, and there are a lot of them in there. And I was asking that very question of, why aren't you spread out? They said that is possible that could happen, but the reason that they're in certain areas, and if there's clusters of them, it's because they're getting more reports of people, acting unruly at the time, and why the calls for service go up. That's why you're seeing them, especially if you go down to the Blue Line and Clark and Lake, you will see quite a bit of security officers as well as Chicago police officers there. All
right, we have another local story here today, marking 1 week since a CPS teacher was reported missing.
Yeah, we're talking about Linda Brown, and as more time goes by, her family and friends are certainly getting even more worried. So search teams have been looking for Brown since January 3rd, and on that same day, it was around 3 a.m., Chicago police said surveillance video captured Brown parking her car on 35th Street and South Lake Park Avenue. So take a look at this. The video shows her walking across a pedestrian bridge. So Brown works as a special ed teacher, and her family has told us that she has dealt with some mental health issues before, but she has never left without saying something. So this is something that is very out of the ordinary. And the other thing is that police canines got her sent just at Lake Michigan. So this is why you're seeing search teams right along the lake the last time they saw her.
A lot of people praying for her and her family right now. Chicago, as you know, got hit with almost 2 inches of rain Thursday night. It all came down in just a few hours, and that broke a 50-year-old record. It is the most rain Chicago has ever seen in one January day. And with all that rain in such a short amount of time, streets all over the city were flooded.
Yeah.
Lincoln Square people did not have to wait for help, though.
We were even seeing water still under the bridge, so the water was still very visible yesterday, even though some of the water started to recede. But the area has been dealing with a lot of flooding in the past, and they told me they've been asking the city for help for almost years, but they told me those calls go unanswered. So they reached out to us for help. And then we saw them, while we were going out and reporting on this, we saw them take matters into their own hands. Take a look. Friday afternoon in Lincoln Square. People are walking over and around mud, leaves, and debris after Thursday's rainfall.
Yeah, over here.
Mikesh Tawaldabrahim tries to find the storm drain in the spot where his car flooded.
Yes, I have to clean it all day. The government ain't doing nothing about this.
Just a better street sweeper solution.
We didn't see any street sweepers at Leland and Maplewood.
There's people out trying to scrape the leaves off the drains.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my rake. Someone's got to do it.
This is Gustavo Chavez.
My family's usually the one that cleans the drains. These 3 drains in here.
After about 10 minutes of shoveling, the water started flowing into the drain. Chavez had some help from his neighbor, Tawaldabrahim.
It's been like this for a long time, and it should be fixed. Something needs to be done with sewage and plumbing, something by the city.
You could see the water receded after neighbors took matters into their own hands, but I took some of their flooding concerns to their alderman, and while Alderman Matt Martin's office told us that he was not available for an on-camera interview, a spokesperson told us that he is aware of this problem. That's why he feels the city needs to make some adjustments.
In a statement, Martin's office said in part, "This is a citywide issue made worse by leaves falling later into the year. I've asked the Office of Inspector General to audit the city's street sweeping program so we can make sure it's keeping up with changing conditions."
If you had a message for your alderman, what would you tell him?
Do better, please, because this needs work.
Sure does.
A lot of frustration from many people, and thanks to Gustavo and his neighbors for stepping up, because and this was around the time where Alderman Martin's office had also told us that you could expect Streets and Sands out there doing some street sweeping. We personally did not see any of them out there, but you saw just how they have to take matters into their own hands and sweeping up everything.
I think the alderman hit it on the head, though. I think one of the reasons we're seeing this street ponding right now with the heavy rain, all of the leaves that never got picked up because of the early snowstorm and freeze. People didn't rake up their yards and bag the leaves so the ground was bare. Those leaves are sitting there, and where are they going to go when the rain pours? Right to the gutter, and they're going to block the gutter.
The other issue they also talked about, Dane, was the fact that there are some people who will rake their leaves, but instead of disposing them the proper way, they throw them in the streets. So they were saying they need to enforce city ordinance when it comes to that, because you are left with this issue. And then the Ravenswood Neighborhood Council recently got back to me earlier today, and they were saying that something needs to be done with the city sewer, but they also, to kind of go with Alderman Martin's point, they were kind of pointing this to climate change, saying that the leaves are falling later. But I think in Chicago, you don't know what kind of fall we're going to have, because sometimes
It varies from year to year.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where you barely get to see the colors change on the leaves, and then they get brown, and then it turns into winter. So it turns into that time of year, especially because we had temperatures in the 50s.
Well, we did an investigative piece a couple months ago. We looked at the issue of flooding in Chicago, and Mark, you can kick in on this. One of the things the city said was they're seeing more intense rainstorms that are triggering these flooding events. And I saw the radar image for the one the other day, and it was like a very narrow but very intense band that just kept going over the same parts of the city over and over.
Yeah, you're going to have that problem anytime you have what is called training. Exactly what you're describing there, Dane, kind of like a train, car after car after car, dumping load after load of moisture on the same situation. Dane, I thought the Deep Tunnel Project was going to take care of all this, right?
You know what? To be honest, though, it has helped. If we didn't have the deep tunnel, the billions and billions of dollars for the deep tunnel, imagine how much worse it would be. Also, imagine, we're all complaining about the rain, the flooding the other night. If it were like 20 degrees colder, we'd be looking at, what, 2 feet of snow.
Oh, so we'd be buried, right? We'd be.
So there is that.
We would have been shoveling out of Soldier Field today. And as of yesterday, we had a high temperature of 60 degrees. Now, a little bit misleading, because you probably thought, well, you know, it was in the 40s most of the day, but it did hit 60 degrees just after midnight, you know, yesterday. So today, not as warm as yesterday. We started out with some rain, and we did hit 40 degrees today as well. But again, that was very early, and we've had some snow showers around the area. We'll continue to see those as we go throughout the evening. Temperatures not this warm tomorrow. Will be a little bit colder with a little peak of sunshine.
All righty, thank you, Mark, and we'll have much more right after this break. And welcome back. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, we're keeping one eye on the Bears and Packers right now, that game going on. And for one couple living in Wisconsin, it is a house divided tonight.
And you might be feeling nervous depending on where you stand with this, but I spoke with them Thursday about how they make this relationship work.
We settled on this location, Cochrane, little tiny town across the river.
I see there's a little bit of Chicago and a little bit of Wisconsin here.
We have fantastic hand-dipped cheese curds, but we threw in a little Chicago. We serve jardiniere.
One thing we like to do is on game days for Bears Packer games is we'll do Chicago dogs.
This is Nick and Marie Kuhn, owners of the North End Pub and Grill, where you'll see both Bears and Packers stuff inside. And Nick, you grew up on the northwest side of Chicago. Had you ever dated a Packers fan, let alone think about marrying a Packers fan?
No, never. Never even crossed my mind.
What'd your family think of that?
There were some questions. As cool as they thought she was, that was one of the, that was their only red flag.
We got married in 2009.
Right before 2010, 2011.
And then we opened our business in 2010, which was also the same season of the Packers Super Bowl.
That was a tough one. I was a huge Cutler fan. I was, again, one of 3 or 4 Bears fans in the area. It was pretty tough having to deal with that for the first season in business.
It's always been a little bit easier to be a Packer fan. And I've said, I don't really know anything different.
Well, Nick, last game, we all saw the outcome here. How are you feeling after that catch from DJ Moore in the end zone?
I stayed up pretty late enjoying it. It was fun. I actually left and went home at halftime because I couldn't be at the restaurant anymore. So I took myself out of here. But I did, after the game, drove over to a buddy's house. They were outside having a bonfire watching the game. I got to gloat a little bit for once.
The Packers have the all-time series. Recent history has all been Packers. Are you feeling that things are different, though, this season?
It definitely has a different feel. The Bears have a great team.
I think hopefully this is it, and this should hopefully be the turnaround we've all been looking for.
How old is your son now?
He's 11.
What team does he cheer for?
He really has chose to cheer for anybody but the Packers. If he chose Bears Packers, he's cheering for the Bears.
So how do you all make it work?
Well, I just think you need some patience with each other. I think a little separation is okay.
Yeah, be fair.
Be fair. Be nice.
And I'm not saying you have to be modest by any means, but just be fair.
I'd say right now the missus is a lot happier than the mister.
Knowing Nick, so he makes the food at their bar and grill in Cochrane, Wisconsin. What he tends to do, he has a small TV in the back, and as you heard him during the last game, he ended up driving home. I'm wondering if he's just hiding in the kitchen. I just texted him, haven't heard back, but since he's a Bears fan like a lot of us, I'm guessing he's very, very nervous right now. And as I look in the corner of my eye, there was a loose ball. I don't know. It looks like, I don't know if the Bears got that or not. We're going to be watching. Of course, Luke Canellis will have this in our sports team.
I bet
later.
he makes a good fish fry, and he may need a good fish fry after this one.
He might be having
you and I both worked in Milwaukee in the past, and so it kind of informs our Bears-Packers sensibilities a little bit. In that my now ex-wife is from Milwaukee and is a huge Packers fan. Both my daughters are Packers fans because of that. My daughters are also Cubs fans in order to curry favor with their dad. So we have a house divided in that sense, although it's more across football, baseball lines.
Yes, and in Wisconsin, because of the Milwaukee Braves and the Brewers came to town, you will have a lot of people in Milwaukee and in Kenosha and Racine who are Cubs fans. So it's kind of this whole dynamic of who do you cheer for, and because you had the Packers playing at the old county stadium at that time.
And there's a bar somewhere in Kenosha County, I don't know if it still exists, but for years, whoever won the season series, Packers or Bears, they would paint the color of the door of the bar, either blue or green and gold. Blue and orange or green and gold.
And you do have still a Chicago contingency in places like Milwaukee, Kenosha, and Racine.
Well, the Brat Stop, you ever been there for a Bears
Highway
Packers
50,
game?
right.
Oh my, that is a special experience, let me tell you. All right, it is time now for a blast from the past. I don't know if you really want to see this, but people are fascinated by stories of space exploration, UFOs, that sort of thing. So we thought it might be fun to look back on a story that I reported way back in 1997 about a UFO sighting over, get this, South suburban Tinley Park. Take a look.
It lasted for about 20 seconds, Tim Janisic and his girlfriend were driving west on I-80 near New Lenox Sunday evening when they saw it.
It had broken through the clouds there.
A fireball, I would say a circular round object, very large, the size of a full moon.
Janisic showed us the sketches he made in his journal just hours after it happened.
This red ball of fire and this tremendous smoke column coming out of it, and it was moving down from the clouds. Maybe 15 seconds later, it appeared to be like this.
The object disappeared behind the tree line about 3 miles away. The couple, who own and manage a coffee shop in nearby Tinley Park, got off the interstate and called 911 to report a possible plane crash. The Will County Sheriff's Department received several calls from people that saw something similar in this area, thinking that it might be a downed plane. They sent out both a ground search team and a plane over the area and found absolutely nothing. The Federal Aviation Administration told the couple they'd probably witnessed a large meteor streaking through the atmosphere.
I don't think it was a meteor because it was going so slow.
So Janisic called a national hotline number for UFO sightings, and within hours, news of the mystery had spread across the country.
Not making speculation that, this was ET, this was a craft from another planet. We saw a phenomenon that I have never seen anything like that before.
And I'll never forget it. It was really amazing.
Maybe it's time to call in you-know-who.
Shocking.
This is so
shocking. That's all I've got to say. Shocking.
See that guy you saw in the video there? He was abducted by aliens at some point. They turned his hair gray, put a few wrinkles in his face.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was he a time traveler? That's always one of the theories of what these UFOs, where do they come from? Some are saying that they are time travelers from from the future coming to visit us.
Well, I remember reporting that story, and I remember meeting this couple and going into it, I'm like, yeah, They were very down to earth and very credible.
Well,
I mean, they really believed they saw what they saw.
Oh, yeah, because the thing is, people say, look, my eyes don't deceive me. This is what I'm seeing. And even in the last few years, people are also seeing, we saw them in Ohio, we saw them in New York City, Washington, D.C. Some are saying, oh, you were just seeing drones, but others are saying, I know what I saw.
Do you like that Inspector Clouseau trench coat I was wearing?
Very nice.
You can bring that back. That looks good.
That was back in the day. All the reporters were kind of dressed that way.
We did.
There are so many thousands and thousands of pieces of space junk, many of which fall to Earth every single day. So it's entirely possible to be seeing all kinds of stuff streaking across the skies that, even a nut or a bolt or a wrench that was kind of lost off of a shuttle or some space mission can be pretty spectacular streaking across the skies. Well, speaking of streaking across the skies tonight, we do have a few snow showers still rotating around this low pressure area. Tomorrow, we're back into some sunshine by the afternoon. Colder than today, 34, but then look at the next couple of days, 40s with more sunshine on Monday. Futurecast shows the snow showers moving on out. Again, we'll clear up by tomorrow afternoon and see a little bit of sunshine, but again, temperatures will be a little bit colder as we go into the afternoon on your Sunday. So your forecast tonight looks like this. Look for a few snow showers overnight tonight, still kind of hanging about. Overnight low temperatures back down into the 20s eventually tonight, and we're back into the 40s for Monday and Tuesday.
All right. Don't go anywhere. We got more coming up in the special edition of Chicago Live. Right after every Bears win, you probably heard Ben Johnson chant "Good, better, best." But there is another slogan that also gets the players going.
And our Tia Ewing has more on that.
Another rallying cry echoing through the locker room comes straight from Chicago's culture. It's Chicago.
If you don't know, now you know. It's Chicago, yeah!
I had to make this official, so I pulled up on Tremaine. We had to let y'all know. It's Chicago, yeah!
That's how you get it done right there. The phrase was created by Chicago native DJ Pharris, who recently spent time with Bears linebacker Tremaine Edmonds after fans on social media pointed out the slogan's origins. The phrase traces back to Kanye West. DJ Pharris originally recorded the line as an outro for Kanye's song Cold. Kanye later used it in a remix on another song, and it took off from there. Pharris began using this Chicago as a signature drop in his DJ sets, and it quickly spread through concerts, events, and now professional sports. It's morphed into It's Chicago.
People took it to say it's Chicago. It's actually this Chicago. This Chicago. That's actually what it is, but it's okay. People, they know where it came from. It actually started, I was working with Kanye West. Being the genius that Kanye was, it was so infectious when I heard it. So I went back and I got my vocals and I took that one part out. I said, I'm gonna make this my drop. So I started using it on my mixes on Power 92, using it in the club. The first person that used it was Keenan Allen last year from the Chicago Bears. He used that and it got a big response on social media. It went viral. And my guy Tremaine Edmonds, he picked it up this year. He just ran with it.
And has been up ever since. DJ Pharris has since trademarked both phrases and is developing a merchandise line, including a collaboration with designer Don C. Tia Ewing, Fox Chicago. It's Chicago!
Bears could use a little of that right now.
They need that positive energy. So right during the break, you had Devin Duvernay have a punt return, got him into territory. They got a first down with Kyle Monungai, and we just saw a drop from one of the wide receivers.
Caleb Williams, got to say, he's been off his game tonight. Not looking real good so far. Maybe he's had some great fourth quarters. They're going to need it tonight.
Especially if they score here and they get the 2 point, even though the game feels like it's been out of reach, they're still very much in this.
Yep. Well, want to thank you for watching this special edition of Chicago Live.
You hit it would be a very difficult one. I have no doubt that there are those in U.S. Central Command and elsewhere that are looking at this right now saying, what could we possibly do? And then, of course, what are the results? What is the outcome? Would we achieve the desired end state? Could it be something where we actually hit them and then set back the protest movement? So there's a lot of ifs and a lot of things they got to work through on that.
During the 12-day war, the U.S. struck that Bordeaux site with its B-2s. Does the reaction, let's rewind to this past summer for a moment here, because when people hear about Iran and the U.S., friction building between the two countries, it does spook people, and it does make people's mind wander to, well, what if things escalate between the two countries? Remind us, the last time the U.S. struck Iran this past summer, how did Tehran respond to that?
Well, what Tehran did was they launched all of those missiles and drones towards Israel, and then, of course, they responded by hitting Qatar, hitting the airbase at Qatar, which, as you may recall, last June, I was in that part of the world. I actually went through the airport in Qatar en route to where I was going. And so that kind of struck close to home, so to speak. I wasn't there when the missiles actually struck, but they actually struck a U.S. base in there, and we have a number of bases over there, and those bases are, they're vulnerable to strikes. So that is something that we have to take into consideration, and certainly the Iranians have shown a willingness to do that, although all the information at the time, it almost sounded as if it had been kind of orchestrated that Iran would respond and they would strike these things so that they could say they responded, and then it wouldn't escalate beyond that. And it was rather an interesting period where Iran responded to our strikes in such a way. But I don't know what would happen in this case. And, frankly, one of the things that's really different about the protests, which kind of goes to the calculus, there are protesters that's been reported widely, who are saying death to Khomeini, death to the supreme leader of Iran. That's something we haven't really heard much in previous protests. I think that's what changes it. And, you know, President Trump has alluded to the fact, you know, during that 12-day war period, he said, you know, we could have struck Khomeini, but we decided not to. I think Khomeini certainly hears that, and there are reports that are out there, not from the most substantial, what I would consider, you know, the core news organizations, but there are reports that maybe Khomeini has been looking at possibly finding a way, you know, to depart Iran, to leave or to do something. And I don't rule that out. I haven't seen that get picked up by the mainstream media outlets that I expect to carry a story like that. But sometimes you see those things out there, and then the next day, boom, they are in the mainstream. So we'll see what happens.
So that idea would be similar to what we saw with Assad.
Very similar. In fact, almost identical. In fact, Russia came up as a place he might go.
We have a short soundbite from the Supreme Leader. It's translated. Let's listen real quick.
People came and did damage to their own buildings, ruining their own streets in order to make the president of another country happy.
And that's really been one of his main points, is that this is, and some of what's been happening with these protesters is they're doing this in an effort to appease President Trump. Khomeini has framed protesters as, again, pleasing the White House. State media has used language like terrorists to describe some of these protesters. Is there any way, Hal, to know how much weight that type of rhetoric actually carries domestically within the Iranian public?
Well, I can say this. So with the protesters, I think that rhetoric carries zero weight. They're protesting for reasons that have nothing to do with President Trump. And I don't think any of the Iranian protesters are out there saying, hey, let's go out there and we're going to make President Trump happy if we're doing this. That is not their motivation. Their motivation is very fundamental. It's very domestic. It's very close to home. They don't like this, you know, just this theocratic autocracy that has crushed their spirit so many times. They don't like this police state that this autocracy depends upon. But there's also the bigger issue, which is if you can't get the economy to function, if people can't make money so they can put food on the table at night, at that point, the government has completely failed. And then in the background, as you may recall, Tehran, that big capital city, is literally running out of water. Their water management has been so bad over the many, many years, over the decades, along with drought and some climate change issues, that they're literally looking at